Okay, the reading for our sermon this morning is taken from Maria Valtorta's Poem of the Man God. This is volume 1. It starts on page 707. Jesus is providing some teaching here. He says, "Many a time man lies to excuse himself. It is the most common form of falsehood. Evil has been done. We are afraid it might be found out as our deed. Then, using and abusing the esteem in which we are still held by other people, we upset the situation and we saddle someone else, of whose honesty only we are afraid, with the evil deed we accomplished. We also do it because at times our neighbor has been the unintentional witness of our evil action, and we want to be secure from his eventual witness, so we accuse him to make him unpopular, and thus, if he should speak, no one may believe him. Behave properly, and you will never need such falsehood. Do you not consider when you lie what a heavy burden you take upon yourselves? It is made of subjection to the evil spirits, of perpetual fear of being found out, and of the necessity of remembering the lie, also after years, in all the circumstances and details in which it was told, without contradicting oneself. Be frank. How lovely are the lips of a soul who does not know falsehood. He may be poor, coarse, unknown. He is he? But he is still a king because he is sincere. And sincerity is more regal than gold and diadems, and elevates one above the crowds more than a throne, and procures a great court of good people than a monarch has. Intimacy with a sincere man gives safety and comfort, whereas friendship with an insincere person, or even to be near such a person, causes a feeling of uneasiness. Since the truth soon comes to light in 1,000 ways, why does he who lies not consider that afterwards he will always be suspected? How can one believe what he says? Even if he speaks the truth, and who hears him wants to believe him, there is always a doubt. Is he lying also now? You may ask, where is the false witness? Every lie is a false witness, not only legal ones. Be simple like God and a child. Be truthful in every moment of your lives. Do you want to be considered good? Be truly so. Even if a scandal monger should wish to speak evil of you, 100 good people will say, no, it is not true. He is good. His deeds speak of him. Deceit is rampant. It's rampant on the earth. And I love this teaching from Jesus because there's really not a lot of room. We were born and we are created to speak truth. And why is that? Because if you imagine the progress that can happen when you speak truth, when you think of how things get slowed down by deceit. So there must be a reason. Why is deceit so popular? Well, the consequences of truth create a lot of fear in this wave of humanity. And personally, I find that quite sickening. How rampant it is. I mean, I can give you example after example as I move through my day, how people are encouraging me to be dishonest. I was meditating and I was thinking about it. I remember when I took my car in to be fixed, and the auto body shop guy said, oh, you have hail damage, you can get that fixed. And I was like, well, that happened 4 years ago. I didn't realize I was insured. Oh, just tell them it happened last month. I mean, it's like nothing. Just tell them this lie. You should be fine. I mean, it just immediately resonates as not something that I can do. And a real estate agent comes through my house and notices that the fridge has the logo Whirlpool on it. He says, well, you can take those logos off. Why would I want to do that? Well, I know exactly what he means, so that people will not perceive the low quality of your appliance that you chose, and therefore they might be, misled. There were some other incidences that came to mind when I was meditating. I think there was 4 things that just in the last few weeks, people were just encouraging me to just lie because that's how it goes. But there's such a misunderstanding of the the price that you pay for being deceitful. So why are people willing to do this? Well, they have no real understanding that this system is perfect and that eventually everything has to be evened out. Any lie that you tell, I don't care how well and crafty it is that you get away with it. And even if everybody thinks it's okay, and it's considered socially acceptable to do so because, well, that's just how it is. That's a lack of understanding of the system that we live in. Now, you are called here to live according to the system of God. So if you want to live according to the system of man, then go ahead and be deceitful. But don't be surprised that you live in a chronic state of anxiety, because your soul is vibrating down here going like, I'm not being honest. I'm not telling the truth. I'm trying to get away with something. People wonder why they're in a chronic state of anxiety. And they're taking all sorts of pills and they're going through all sorts of therapy and they're trying to resolve often what is a very simple thing, which is they do not live as he says. He says to live properly. Okay, well that means we have to address the fear that exists that leads us to the comfort in being deceitful. And that's really the theme of the sermon today, is I want you to examine, are you afraid of the truth? If you are afraid of the truth because the truth will reveal an intention in you that you do not feel good about, then why don't you clean up that intention? Why don't you figure out what that intention is and clean it up? Why don't you do that work so that you can then live a nice, smooth, clean, relaxed life? How many people come to meditation courses here in order that they may learn to relax and then walk through their lives deceiving, emotionally protecting other people with untruth? So all the meditation in the world is not going to fix that if somebody is not willing to clean that up and risk what happens in my life if I speak truth. What happens if I trust and I have faith in God's system that truth leads to freedom? The truth shall set you free. And Jesus says, think about a lie that you tell and you have to forever remember that lie so that years later even, you have to cover your tracks in case somebody brings it up. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of wasted energy. Except when you know you speak the truth, you don't have to remember anything except the truth, which is stored in your memory as it is. And you go, well, if I remember correctly, this is what I had, this is what happened. It's what happened, I'm pretty sure that's what I said, that's what I would have said, because it's the kind of person I am. Well, the fear is of losing something. And if you think about the food industry, the medical industry, the legal industry, these industries are bogged down with legislation and rules because people are not willing to tell you the truth. Because if they tell you the truth about their product and their processes, then they know that people will go like, I don't think I want to buy that anymore. And that would be right. You shouldn't buy stuff that actually erodes at your health while the advertising slogan says this is good for your health. Well, we can't say that. We can't tell them the truth. The political system is the same. We can't actually tell them what goes on. This whole system of corruption exists. So are you committed to living where your inner being is peaceful? Then you have to be willing to step outside of that system of corruption. And you have to be willing to be utterly truthful within yourself. And slowly but surely, your inner world will begin to vibrate at that very peaceful and content level of truth. Then you walk into the corrupt world, and yes, it's very abrasive to be able to sense the lies in the advertising, the lies in the courts. Somebody does something, has an intention to do something that's dishonest, and they try to hire the best possible lawyer to convince other people that their intention was not what it was. Why? So they don't have to deal with the consequences of their dishonesty. And our system, because everybody, or a lot of people, sort of go like, it's not that far off of how I live. I mean, I probably wouldn't steal from somebody, but on another level, I'm really not that different. So let's allow this system to flourish. And the time that is wasted and the love that is crushed as a result. You see innocent people. You see police officers are willing to fabricate and coerce testimony from people in order that they would find their man and put them away. And who often suffers for that? People who can't afford a good defense. It's all the same garbage. This unwillingness for people to be truthful. Here, what are we learning? That your intention matters, and you should be willing to convey your intention. And if your intention is not how you want it to be, then meditate and figure out what is off. And before you start going out into the world, and then you have to cover up your tracks because your intention is not something that you are willing to communicate, then yes, you're going to be in this constant state of anxiety and fear that somebody may discover that. You know, there's a lot of stuff that screws up relationships because of this. Because people have this idea that, you know, in my relationship, I want my partner to have this perfect energy. You know, I was thinking about something that I experienced this week when somebody was sharing with me, like, well, you know, I didn't tell my husband this thing because, well, you know, I didn't want him to construe it this way, so I had to sort of fudge the situation and just explain it. But we can feel when the truth is not being delivered, and something in us goes like, I don't know why, I don't feel good about it. You know, in reality, people sometimes think about their ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends. Does that mean their intention is to go off and be with that other person? Generally, it isn't. So why do we have to hold our partner to be like, well, you must never think about that person? I mean, what's realistic? You walk through life and you don't potentially look at somebody and go like, wow, that's an attractive person. I could see myself being attracted to that person. However, I'm married to this person, I'm in this relationship. So what is my honest truth? Yeah, sometimes I look at somebody and I go, that's an attractive person. However, my intention is to be with you. That in itself could create incredible amounts of wasted time and drama. Because the partner goes like, well, that means that nothing matters anymore. Nothing in our relationship matters at all because, you know, is that honest? No, that's not honest. You know, and many of you guys are facing the idea of having to communicate to people that you love, parents and siblings and friends, you know, that you're changing, that you're different, that you don't agree with certain things anymore. You don't see it that way. Why would you be afraid to do that? Well, maybe you don't yet have the defined or refined way of communicating it. And that part I'm going to talk about just before the sermon ends. I want to talk about how do you convey truth in a way that God would say, yes, the words of your mouth are pleasing to me. Well, you might have to learn that. Because sometimes, and this is how I was, I'd hear a sermon like this, and I'd want to go out there and just, you know, in Aries style, just blast it out. Okay, well, that was a little unrefined. So it's not helpful to come like blasting people with truth without any awareness of how it may make them feel. We're not about being crass and unkind. But we're not willing to, and I want you to consider this, that this could be a slogan. I am not willing to twist the truth in order to avoid bad consequences. The bad consequences may simply be because you're not living honestly. So figure out how to get yourself honest. And you will truly be relaxed and free then. And you may realize, well, people don't live this way, so it's kind of lonely. I'm willing to be lonely in that way. That I may sit side by side with Jesus and he may look at me and go, the words of your mouth are pleasing to me. And the meditation of your heart is pleasing to me. That to me that's what I'm preaching here. And I don't care about what people think about me if they think that, well, whatever. I mean, I think I told you guys that, you know, my brother, we had a conversation when I was in Toronto and he just didn't seem willing to really want to forgive me for something that happened 3 years ago. Then he called me this week, and it took us a week before we had a conversation. And I was sort of I was foolishly thinking he was going to go like, you know, I had a change of heart. I realized that you were sincere, and I forgive you. That couldn't have been farther from the truth. His motivation was to go like, explain to me why you came up here and wanted to talk to me. And I don't understand. It's like I can't even understand that on some level. But that's somebody he's not able to see me as a sincere person. And not able to feel in the words that I communicated that I was sincerely remorseful and I only came up there to see my brother and my dad and him in hopes of resolving this conflict. But I realize that that's not part of how he moves through the world. That's not a value that he necessarily, not the way we cultivate it here. So he continued to find fault with me in this conversation. I'm like, wow, I was actually hopeful that maybe something was going to change. That's the consequence that I'm willing to deal with. And I'm teaching that because I sleep easily because that's all cleaned out. I mean, somebody else was writing to me like, well, I don't want to die and have this regret that this person never forgave me. Well, you don't have any control over that. I can't do anything to make my brother think a different way. I mean, other than sit there and own the things that I did and apologize and speak with sincerity. And beyond that, I mean, it's like you'll realize as you progress that human beings are incredibly stubborn and incredibly attached to building cases against the people that they don't really want in their lives. So stop wasting your energy trying to win people over that are not open to it. Instead, make yourself available as a truth bearer to those who God will bring into your life that are not your relatives and maybe people that you don't even initially like. And that will teach you to grow spiritually. That will teach you about love. Stop wasting your love on people that have no receptivity to it and are only critical of what you're trying to do. That's not honest either. So, this is an area that's very intense for me because it's really sad to watch the world suffer as a result of people's willingness to be dishonest and then people's willingness to affirm other people's dishonesty. Okay, so how are you going to speak truth? Well, remember the scale that we teach here. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And I know there's one more. Is it kind? Thank you. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And is it kind? So you might have to do a little meditation. You're like, well, I know the truth, and now I have to go through the scale and figure out, okay, well, we know it's true because we just decided that. Is it helpful? Now, if it's not helpful, it may not be worth bringing up. It's not that you're being dishonest and you're omitting the truth that you can feel would be helpful, but you're afraid. No, that's different. You go, this would not be helpful to say. Is it necessary? In other words, there are some situations that it isn't really necessary to bring up the truth. That would be too self-indulgent on your part. It's like people go like, well, I just wanted to keep it real. A lot of times that's like, I just wanted to insult you and I just wanted to rub your face in it. So that may not be helpful or necessary. And kindness simply means that you're aware that the other person may have feelings as a result of your truth. So in your energy and in your facial expressions and in the tone of your voice, you work on conveying it in a way that shows, I care about you, I love you. I'm not just trying to blast you with the truth and then going like, and good luck with that. Because this is the mandate of Jesus Christ, that you would love everyone as your neighbor, even the people that on one level you're tempted to hate. That you would go, God will take care of their negative attitude. I am past the point of having to be the one that makes sure that you suffer. So here is my truth now as a soul who is seeking to be liberated. And I realize this truth might be a little difficult for you to hear. And I'll just restate that my intention is not to do that or do this. My intention is to, speak truth and have a relationship that's based in truth. That you might see me as a sincere soul. It's very easy to trust sincere people. Because your mind doesn't automatically go like, well, what's their hidden agenda? Do they really mean that? Are they lying this time? I mean, that's just a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted energy. So this is something that I think everybody has to meditate on and go, at what point, I'm okay with these truths, when I start to get down here, then I can start to tense up. Well, why don't you look at the level where you start to tense up and go, what am I afraid of? Because fear is in opposition to love. So as long as that fear exists, we won't be able to know God to the degree that God wants to know us.